Welcome to the PT Marketing Power Hour, highlighting successful marketing strategies from the North America's fastest growing clinics so you can learn from their wins and power your practice growth. Today, we'll introduce you to a practice owner in Harahan, Louisiana, who has profitably integrated telehealth as a service in their clinic. She has some great tips for us. If you have thought about adding additional service offerings to boost profit, you're going to want to hear this, so stick around. At the end, we'll give you a free guide to marketing telehealth, whether you have just started or you're looking to improve it. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more episodes. Now, here's your host, physical therapist, former practice owner, and PT marketing expert, Neil Trickett.
Welcome to the PT Power Marketing Hour, bringing you the latest tips and strategies to power your practice growth. I'm your host, Neil Trickett, and today I have the pleasure of introducing Beth Winkler here from Magnolia Physical Therapy in New Orleans. And Beth and I have known each other for a very long time. She is an amazing practice owner, business entrepreneur. So welcome, Beth. Great to have you on the show here.
Thanks for having me, Neil.
Excellent. Great. And so, Beth, we go back quite a ways, right?
Yeah. I think we first met, about 15 years ago at Measurable Solutions, our consulting firm.
That's right. Yeah. So being I think both young practice owners at the time, we learned a lot together of business training, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent. And so Beth, can you tell our audience a little bit about your practice?
So we are located in New Orleans, Louisiana. And our practice, I have a business partner, Lisa Taglauer, and we opened July 1st of 2005. And I don't know if most New Orleanians know the date of August 29th, but August 29th of that same year, the next month, was Hurricane Katrina. So we opened our practice just about a month or two before the storm. And people always ask me, even right after the storm, to this day, how did you fare during Hurricane Katrina? And I said, well, we really didn't have any business to begin with. And we had a few patients, but I think the recovery was much easier, honestly, because we didn't have staff to manage and, deal with that aspect of, having them be laid off or not being paid, or, that's a whole different ballgame there.
Yeah, it is. That's unbelievable. And so right now, like, how many locations do you guys have? You built it up quite a bit.
Yeah. So when we first started, I think throughout the first year, we were seeing maybe about 40 to 55 patient visits a week. Uh-huh. And now we have 5 locations. And we have grown throughout the city. So we have 3 clinics in the New Orleans area, 1 in the Elmwood area, and then on the West Bank as well. So just 5 across the metropolitan area. So, and we're seeing close to 950 patient visits a week. Well, before this, our COVID-19 happened.
Gotcha. So you went from about 40 or 50 patient visits per week up to almost 1,000. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's really amazing there. And so what do you really love about, your practice and the work that you've done over these years?
I think, initially, and it still is all about the patients, right? I had my patient caseload, and as the practice grew, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to treat a full patient caseload and run the practice. So I transitioned out of patient care, which was a really tough transition, as I know, most practice owners who do that have a really tough time with that. But I think my focus really shifted to working with our employees and our team members and our staff, and that they're my patients now. They're the ones that I look to help grow themselves and improve their abilities. And
That's amazing. Yeah. So did you have like any aha moments when you realized that because of the evolution of your business, right, from going from just a few people to manage to now tens of people to manage, like, was there any moment that you kind of, oh, wow, I really have to like change my game here?
Yeah, I think a lot of that was when we opened a second practice, because I couldn't, even if I was treating in one location, I could see what was going on and I could still have contact with other people. But when we started to add additional locations, it's like, okay, I really need to make sure that I'm over there, and making sure that these therapists were skilled enough. So I knew that I couldn't be treating patients full time because I needed to work with them to improve their skills.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what helped me make that transition. I'm like, look, if I can mentor these therapists, I can make a greater impact. If I have 5 therapists I'm mentoring and they see this many patients a week and help them, then, that's kind of how I told it to myself anyway, because getting out of patient care was really, really tough.
Yeah. So it was a challenge, right? Like probably mentally for you to kind of.
Yeah. And I, not just from patients, but even friends of mine and family members are like, you have a gift. Why are you giving this up? And it was a real struggle.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm good now.
That's good. Yeah. Learned a lot there. Awesome. And so obviously we're going through a crazy time right here. And it's having huge impacts across the rehab industry, all industries here. And so, so how has the current crisis affected your practice?
I think what we've really been noticing is just the team that we have and how awesome everybody's really coming together. I mean, we're just getting a lot closer, and I think we're all growing through this. And I think there are some team members that are having a more difficult time than others, and we've had to lay off a few people, and that's the really crappy part about it, but it's really given us time to focus on just improving what we have already. It's given me time to say, okay, well, how can we make this more efficient? How can we improve with this? And we've got that defensive mode where we're trying to deal with what the packages are and figure out all of the loans and all of that part, but also the offense. It's like, okay, how are we going to come out of this stronger than before? So that's really where my head is. And it's a good place to be because you're not so at effect of everything.
Right.
So I have to make part of my day, more than 50% of my day, that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it sounds like you kind of changed and kind of gone with the attitude of like, what can I do to using this time, right, to pivot and work on things within the business. Is that right?
Right.
Yeah. So in terms of some of the core strategies that you've done to pivot during this time, what's some of the like marketing and messaging changes that you've had to make?
Yeah. So I think, one of the things we really are focusing on not doing is selling, like this is a time to give patients and the community just information and help and hope. So, how can we help you? And then give them hope that there is a positive on the other side, right? So that really has changed our strategy. It's like, okay, what can we do to give people information that can help them if they're having back pain at home, but they can't make it into their physical therapy visits? And not only that, our physician rep, our marketing director, she has been calling all of her doctors, like the top 50, and we've been asking these 4 questions, like what, how are you? What's going on in your business or industry? How are we doing? Where it's appropriate, if it's a physician's office and they're sending us patients and we want to know what's going on there. And then what can we do to help? So, and she, we had one office and she said, well, there's what we need, you can't help us with. And Kelly's like, well, what is that? And she said, well, we need masks. She goes, well, we have masks. Well, I'm going to bring some over to you, right? They were chronic pain clinic, and they had patients to see who were suffering and needed medication. And so that was really nice to be able to help them without expecting anything in return, Right. So it's kind of shifted that. Let's just outflow, but what can we do to help and provide hope?
That's an amazing way to pivot. I mean, you just hear of like, I've done many of visits to doctors, and I'm sure you have too. And it's always been the mindset of like, let me make a rapport and then let me just try to get referrals out of it. Right. Where this, you're actually caring and showing like how you can help them. That's a great way of thinking to develop.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting things in my email like, about new software and new this. And I'm like, that is the last thing that I want to see right now. You know what I mean? So that's just totally turned me off. So that I'm like, okay, well, if I don't want to see that, I know other people don't want to see that. So trying to figure out how to shift to that.
And tell me a little bit about some of your kind of output on like Facebook and things that you're having your team like help to do to get the word out.
Yeah, so we have some therapists now that are working and not seeing a full caseload. So, it's like, let's utilize their knowledge and their experience to help people who are at home and can't come in. So we have all of our therapists doing videos about different parts of the body that are, in discomfort or whatever, and exercises that can help. We have one of our directors, Dr. Quirk, who is doing a daily Facebook Live exercise class. So Lisa, my business partner, she's like, people are going to be deep, and they, a lot of them can't even go outside right now. So what can we do to keep people active? So I've been doing the class. It's been great. I'm going to be, she's going to be really buff at the doing half hour every day of this class. But yeah, just putting out information out there that's going to help people. So we have that noon Facebook Live that we do. And then at 3:30, it's a health and well-being series that we have a video, a short one of one of our doctors of physical therapy talking about 1 or 2 exercises to help with specific conditions.
Oh man, way to outflow. That's incredible. And just the relationship building and maintaining that's happening because they can't come in the clinic, right? For certain people, but you're still able to be in front of them at home and probably maybe they're even passing that along to friends and family, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so within the clinic itself, you have some of the clinics open, right? And so what's some of the clinic strategies that you've had to pivot or change during this time?
So we actually consolidated 2 clinics together that were fairly close to one another. And, we also have, a smaller workforce right now, not just a few people, unfortunately, that we had to lay off for the time being, but therapists who, and also, techs or receptionists that have young children at home and don't have anyone to care for them. So they're choosing to be at home because they don't have a choice, right? Mm-hmm. Or if they're immunosuppressed and they can't be in the clinic. So our workforce has decreased actively in the clinics as well. So, kind of balance that among everything. So right now we have about 1/3 of the patients coming into the clinic. And honestly, I struggled with that. I really struggled with staying open or not. And, my partners and I disagreed, but the further it came along and the more information we got about Homeland Security, coming out saying physical therapy is an essential part of, mitigating this, like patients not having to go into the emergency room or the doctor's offices for pain medications, or, if a patient has poor balance and they're falling and they're breaking hips, and, so we have that are seeing patients in the clinic with, those types of diagnoses where patients, if they really wait a month or 2, they're going to be much worse off and could be, could potentially be surgical candidates and things like that. And then the rest of the patients, we have a few that are seeing patients via telehealth. So that's obviously something that's very new. So it's new to our therapists. It's also new to patients. We're a very manual therapy focused clinic. So, patients want our hands on them, which I don't blame them. Right. So it's trying to make that shift a little bit to, we can provide value for you via the screen. Ideally an inpatient visit would be best.
Yeah.
But, what value, figuring out the maximum value we can provide to patients on the screen.
Yeah. So Beth, you brought up some really key points there. We see practice owners making these tough decisions, these struggles. Should I keep my clinic open to serve a minimal amount of people, or should I close? And so what was your thought process to stay open?
Yeah, it was a roller coaster, because I was literally, the fence is here, and one day I was here, one day I was here. It was just, and thankfully, I have smart business partners too, who, we talked about it and we worked it out. And I think, the people that we could help balanced out the people that we couldn't help if we didn't stay open. So, and we had therapists and people to work. They really wanted to do the work. Now, if everybody didn't have anybody like that, right, we wouldn't have made that decision. But I think it sort of organically happened. We had therapists who really wanted to stay on, maybe a third or 40%. And then we had that kind of same amount of patients that really wanted to still come into the clinic. So it sort of happened organically.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So it's obviously a lot of different factors you have to take into consideration. And I think too that you're talking a little bit too about the kind of the relationship with patients and the relationship with doctors and keeping the clinic open at a certain capacity still fulfills that relationship. And I think having the foresight to look, not just for obviously the immediate few weeks here, but what's the repercussions of, let's say, totally closing for 4 or 8 weeks out? What would that happen? What would happen to the business, right? And probably took that into consideration too. Yeah. And so I think you were telling me before you pivoted a little bit to telehealth. Can you tell me a little bit about things that you've had to do for that?
Yeah. So Ron, one of our partners, he has been really spearheading that and doing an amazing job. He started looking at platforms right away. The first week we were really starting to get a lot of cancellations and people self-isolating at home. And we've actually already switched a platform once. So I don't even know the name of it. But so what he started doing is having these daily huddles with the clinicians who were seeing these patients at noon. So it's like we can get their input on what their feedback is, and also their, not so much objections, but like some of the challenges that they might have. And they're, on the front line. So they're getting, calling patients, and patients like, I don't know about that, so it's not only getting them on board to be able to have the knowledge to do it. Like, how do you evaluate a patient with low back pain on the screen? But also, how do you get the patients to realize the value of that? So I think a lot of it has to do with making sure that our therapists are being trained. This is all so new. So he's got these noon, little huddles, we're calling them. It's like, okay, what can we work on today? So I think, and this week and next week, he's working on an educational platform, whether it's like a 2-hour online thing that he's going to do based on some of the experience that he's had, and including, some other continuing education courses in that, so that we can, be really have the best product we could have.
Right. So not just the platform, that's just one component, right? The logistics, right? The training. And I think sometimes we forget the other aspect, which is it's very new to patients also.
Right.
So how do they perceive it, and how do you market it and sell this alternative service for them, right?
Yeah. So it's just getting the therapist to, we do drills. It's like, okay, if a patient objects to it, what can you say to that? So just giving, knowledge is control, right? So just giving them as much knowledge as to the therapist, but also to the patient.
And so for some of our audience that may not be familiar, when you say drills, that's actually taking, like, Ron, who's leading this, and they're getting feedback from the field in terms of objections or questions that they may get from patients. And then they actually do that, pretend that over and over again with a therapist, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's really neat. That's going above and beyond. And, but you're making it happen, right? And so you're able to now change in this time and still have that connection with patients, and obviously helping them through their misunderstandings of what it may be like. And obviously it's, for a therapist, I've never had to do that, so I can't imagine what it would be like to just change in one day the way that you treat.
Right. And I like form. When I'm doing my evaluation, I'm very specific, and some therapists aren't that way. So I think it's really figuring out the how each individual therapist practices. I've got one, and she's like, put them all on my schedule. I'll make it work. And others who are like, okay, where's my protocols? How do I do this? So it's really trying to find a balance between all of that. And, what'll be great though is when we do get back to seeing our patients in clinic, if we have a patient who cancels because of childcare, they can't leave their infant they can't bring the infant in therapy, that we can provide these visits. I don't think this is going to take over, but I think it'll be a nice supplement to have for patients who can't come in for whatever reason, or who might live too far and can't access physical therapy. So that could be another service line.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just a great way to, look at what you have now, then also for the future, right? So in terms of obviously we're going to get through this at some point, right? And I think May we'll start to see businesses start to reopen and change, just kind of based off of what we've seen before with like China and South Korea. I think April is going to be tough for everybody, but I think May things will flatten out and businesses will start to open and resemble a little bit of normalcy again. I think it's going to be quite a lot of change in our lives. But what do you see as your strategy to recover after this crisis is over, as businesses start to reopen?
Yeah, I think this has really I work really closely with our marketing team, and I think this has given us some reflection time, and really work on building these relationships more. I mean, there's one thing when you come into a physician's office and, you have a rapport with them, but you're asking for business, right? Like, you have any patients you can send to me, or, but then it's like, the relationship is, I feel this has brought it to a new level. And I think when we do start going back to marketing to the physicians and some of these, we also do work with attorneys and businesses, that we're going to be on the forefront of their mind. It's not challenging to go in and say, hey, what do you got for me today? Or, here's some pens or whatever. I think it's really strengthened that relationship. So I just an easier gateway for our people. Another thing too, with the social media, just being on the forefront of everybody, like, okay, well, I remember these guys doing this video, or, so I think a lot of that is going to happen organically, but it also has given us time to reflect on, okay, our, top 50 and be efficient and focus on them instead of, we called it, instead of casting the net and pulling in and seeing what we get, instead of fishing, let's go hunting. Let's figure out who we really want to be on our team and go after them. So it's given us some time to really work on those prospects.
Oh, that's excellent. And then in terms of kind of logistics or things within the practice, when you start to have more staff come, like, do you have any plans for like bringing staff back on at certain times? Have you worked through any of that yet?
Yeah, we're going to do it based on efficiency levels in the clinics. So as far as, we have a ratio that we have a percentage basically of like how many patients per therapist. And it's a ratio. So we just have different levels of that. So when, one therapist gets busy to a certain percentage, then we're going to bring another one back on. And I think that's going to, I think that'll actually be an improvement from where we were. We were pretty inefficient before this. We had, we started to dip with our caseload, and we had all these great therapists. And it's like, okay, well, let's just, so before all this happened, we really started working on our marketing strategy. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was telling you, like, it started a couple of months ago. So this is really just going to catapult that into action, I think.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I that's one thing that I've said before too, is like, it's going to be a scaling up as you get back to a normal capacity. The amount of work that you're doing right now, though, like with the marketing that you're doing and the PR that you're doing and the reaching out to physicians, and all of that is going to determine how fast that scale up happens. And that's called the business recovery curve. And so you're laying the groundwork right now for that recovery to be faster. So we're
really even restructuring some of our admin positions and posts. So,
yeah, for sure. And so, we were chatting a little bit before that you opened right before Katrina, and I think you said too that there was another hurricane that you had to go through, and your clinic was shut down. And so, what were some of the things that you remember from those times of like the recovery part after that aftermath?
Yeah, so I do remember after Hurricane Katrina, I remember getting a phone message on the answering machine from a patient. Right when we opened, it was about maybe three to 4 weeks after the storm. Lisa and I both had lost our homes; they flooded, and
Yeah.
I was staying at my brother's house, and she was staying at her sister's house, or in Baton Rouge, I think. And so we were coming in, and we were handling our homes too, right? So she would go in and do a day of work at her home to try to see what she could salvage, and I would work in the clinic. And we reached out to home health companies too, because there were home health therapists that weren't back yet, and there was a need. I mean, we were going to some patients' homes that didn't even have nurses available, right? So we're cleaning them, and Lisa's bringing them toiletries, and so we just wanted to help. We had all of this, her and I were just, wanted to see patients. We wanted to get back up and going, but there wasn't a whole lot of patients to be seen. So when that first patient called on the answer machine, I was so ecstatic. I'm like, come in now. It's like, I don't know if I have authorization. He was workers' comp. I'm like, I don't care. Just come in. Let's see you. Let's figure out how we can do this. And then we faxed all the doctor's offices that we were open, and that we were providing free wellness sessions to all the military that were there and law enforcement. So we just wanted to get our hands on people. We didn't really even think about the payment. We're just, let's do it. And Debbie, who was one of our other team members, I remember her going to all the military stations. She's like, of course she volunteered to do that, right? But handing out flyers, so we got a lot of the, ICE, the immigration services, and a lot of law enforcement coming in. So I think that helped. It was a different medium, right? Fax and hand deliver, but same concept. It's like hope and help. This is we're not like asking for your business right now. It's like, what can we do to help you? So it's kind of similar concept right now, just a very different way of doing it.
Yeah, and a lesson learned, right? So going through that kind of adversity before, you learned that it was more important to, help and hope, right? And so now you're applying it to this lesson, right? But I think, gosh, I mean, if you can go through something like starting up a new practice, having your homes flooded, and getting through that shutdown, right, of life, and then a lot of businesses and homes were ruined because of the rising water. So it took months to recuperate from that. And then, gosh, you made it into a 5-location practice after that, so there is life on the other side of these types of crisis, and you get through it. Sure. And then you just keep going, and you keep thinking, you keep creating, and you're just a true testament to making that happen. That's awesome. And so, in building this really successful practice that you've done with Lisa and Ron, your business partners, what do you really attribute what are some of the core things that you've kind of held on to that's gotten you to this level?
I think, I would have answered differently a few years ago, but I think it's our team. Being very picky about who you're put on your team, because we can't do it all, so if you're going to be having multi-locations and multi-practitioners, you need to have clinicians and directors who are, have the same mission, same purpose, same core values as you. So we've really shifted our hiring to hire people who have our similar core values. And I think that's really the key, because like I said, you can't do it alone. Another thing we've also done is we've been working with a coach the past couple of years. And, we've always, with Measurable Solutions, we had our coach and consultant there. And I think that's key, because you have your team members and your staff that you hold accountable, right? But who holds us accountable? So that's really important. I mean, Lisa and I and Ron, we do that as well, but I'm not going to be like, Lisa, you messed up here. Like, where's that report I asked yesterday? But having a coach really helps you see the grand scheme of things. And so we've been working with someone just to help us all, with our quarterly our quarterly priorities and our, getting the whole team on board. So we have these quarterly sessions, training sessions where we figure, okay, what's in the next 3 months, what are the 1 or 2 things that we really need to focus on. And that has been tremendous as well in our growth, not just of the practice, but just the team, just seeing them flourish and really, take on the charge.
That's great. And it kind of sounds like you've been working with someone who's a little bit with like maybe the Growth Institute or that kind of scaling up philosophy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The Rockefeller habit. So for those of you that you haven't read it, it's really a fantastic starting book. It's called Scaling Up by Vern Harnish, and it's the Rockefeller habits. And it just puts in kind of core rhythms and strategies that any business really has to go through in terms of scaling up. And so it sounds like you've been implementing those. And I love your advice there of just, you have to have someone that you're accountable to as an owner, and that you don't know it all, right? There's always a lot to learn. Right.
Yeah. The methodology is really, really good. We started reading the books and trying to implement them ourselves. And then we found a software called Align that we were starting to put things into. And I'm like, well, I don't know what some of this stuff means, and I might need more help. And so they referred us to Petra Coach, who is a scaling up, they're all scaling up coaches. And that's just been really great.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I've had this kind of a similar thing. We've been working with a group called Elite Entrepreneurs in Phoenix, and same principle. They've done a lot of that. And learning a lot of those core competencies and running the team and running meeting rhythms. But that's what allowed you to get to where you are today, building that team and getting those systems and processes in place to make that all happen. Yeah, excellent. And so looking back, is there anything you would do differently?
Let's see. Yes. I would, in the beginning, I would have had more of an understanding of the financials, like profit margin and, all of those fun terms and numbers, and, just a really better understanding of, the employee efficiency and things like that. I think, for a while we were kind of winging it there. I'm like, oh, it's, books are positive. we can keep going. It's just having a better understanding and learning more about that in the early phases, because I think, we could have done more, but, I'm happy with how it's all evolved.
That's amazing. Yeah. And I think what's been, knowing you for so many years, what's been amazing is you're always trying to learn. You're always trying to better yourself as a businesswoman, right? Because we went to school to become physical therapists, right?
Something I just thought of is, Neil, is you were the one who sent me the Scaling Up book.
There you go.
We had started to read it a few years before that. And when I think you mailed it to me and Lisa and Ron. And I remember we're like, maybe we should pick this up again. So I just put 2 and 2 together. So thank you for that.
That's fantastic. Great to hear. And so what advice would you have for practice owners that they should focus on as they build a business back up at, when the recovery is going to be happening here? What should they focus on?
I would say it's all about your people. I mean, make sure that you're communicating with them. If they're at home, if they're in the clinic, just constant communication. It's the same 4 questions. How are you? What can I do to help? Really make sure that they know that you're there for them. And even if there's nothing new to report, just, say there's nothing new to report. We've been sending out a daily video to all the team. It's just me and in my house, just saying, what's been going on for the day. This is what we're working on. This is what we're doing. And it's been really great, just to keep everybody in the loop. But it's hard, as therapists, we're used to not just seeing our patients, but like we're used to being around a lot of people. And I'm sure that's for most companies, so I think it's just keeping that communication now, so that when you do reopen, everybody still has that bond.
Because you're going to need those staff back, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it's about keeping good relationships with your team right now, even though you may lay them off temporarily, right? Sounds like you're really working hard to keep a good communication relationship. Like, we want you back. We got to work on the timing.
Yeah. They're essential.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. And then we do have practices, the business owners that we see around the country that have partners. And so you have 2 other partners, is that correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so what advice would you have for practice owners that are working with co-partners? What have you found to work in your ownership team?
Yeah, I think a very key delineation of roles, kind of like we talk about them as lanes, so I have the CEO lane, and Lisa's the CFO lane, and Ron is in charge of all the therapists. And so I think just making sure that we all stay in our own lanes, it's like, and let the other know, look, this is my lane. I think that's really important, because not only the whole double work issue, but you have team members and staff that could get confused if they know who is in charge of this and who is responsible for this. It just gives them a lot more direction, right? So, and I think just, again, communication. We talk a lot. When we moved into separate offices, we made a point to make sure that we're communicating almost every day. Just, this is what I'm doing. This is, and not just business things, but, just report, like, what are you kids up to? How are you guys doing? And, that's really important.
Yeah. It's obviously a super strong relationship, and just like, it's a work marriage, right?
Yeah.
Got to keep the spouse happy. So, reporting in and making sure. I love the lanes analogy there, because I think that's where sometimes the confrontation can come in, is like if someone's coming into your lane a little bit, or if you're going into someone else's lane, right?
Right. And sometimes you don't realize it. It's like, that's my lane. And it's like, oh, all right, I'm out.
Excellent. So what do you see for the future of Magnolia Physical Therapy? What would you love to see happen?
So, again, this answer would have been different if, we were all about, for me, being, the Starbucks of physical therapy, and we're going to grow and grow and grow. And I think the more I have been working with my team is, I want to grow within what we have now, right? So adding other service lines, seeing how, efficient we can make each facility. And also how not just efficient, but how strong we can make our team, with training and education, and just have like a really kick-ass team to take it the next few years, So that's really where my focus is making sure the clinics that we have are doing really, really, really well.
And they will. I have absolutely 100% confidence, knowing you, that it's going to be an amazing outcome after all this for you and the team at Magnolia Physical Therapy. So, Beth, I just want to thank you so much for being on the call with us today, and downloading your insight, your wisdom for our audience. And I know that's some great tips and advice that they're going to be able to take away and look at their current situation, and then also be able to apply to their future. So thanks so much for being on the call today.
Thanks for having me, Neil. I appreciate you. Thanks.
You're welcome. And so for more tips, ideas, strategies, videos, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Practice Promotions Physical Therapy Marketing, and also our blog at practicepromotions.net. So this is Neil Trickett saying, wishing you much success in your practice, and have a great day.
Well, I hope today's episode has given you some new ideas for growing your clinic with telehealth. To get a free guide on marketing telehealth, plus a full suite of other tools, head over to practicepromotions.net/power to download the PT Marketing Power Pack today. There are more than 9 checklists, free resources made to coach you through simple, proven marketing actions, including growing your telehealth program. So check it out today, practicepromotions.net/power, hit subscribe, and we'll see you next time.